David Kirk grew up in Ellettsville and moved into his childhood home with his wife and 6-year-old daughter 4 years ago. He says it's a quiet neighborhood and more affordable than nearby Bloomington. But what Kirk really loves is the big woodlot in the back, where he and his daughter like to look for animal tracks and fossils.
Whatever this type of fossil is, we've got all sorts of them back here. And I've always been able to find them since I was a kid, and still to this day. My daughter finds them by the plastic cup full.
But just through these woods is the Cook facility, about 200 yards from Kirk's house. As we get closer, you can hear the low whir of the plant grow louder, competing with cicadas in the trees. Cook uses a chemical called ethylene oxide to sterilize its products. In 2016, the EPA found it was far more toxic than the agency originally thought, 30 times more toxic to adults and 60 times more toxic to kids. Long-term exposure to it can cause blood cancers and breast cancer in women, among other things. But even after living here for 4 years, no one told Kirk that Cook was putting this into the air.
It seems like it was kind of swept under the rug.
According to the latest EPA National Air Toxics Assessment, the likelihood of getting cancer in Ellettsville over the course of a lifetime from air pollution alone was higher than the national average in 2014. It was also higher than any other area of the state, except perhaps Cleveland Cliffs Steel Mill in Portage. And EPA work files show those levels were doubled for people like Kirk, who live closest to the plant, reaching risk levels that the agency calls unacceptable. But why weren't Ellettsville residents told? And whose job was it to tell them? That's not clear. Ted Palma recently retired from the EPA after working in its Office of Air Quality for more than 20 years. The year that the EPA updated its lifetime cancer risk map, which reflected just how toxic ethylene oxide is, it lit up with hundreds of blue hotspots that weren't there before. Palma says the agency worked to release the data as quickly as it could.
Each of the states and regionals and local partners, and where people in local communities contacted us, we did everything in our power to reach out to them and tell them exactly what was going on.
Palma says the EPA doesn't have the staff to check the data at every ethylene oxide facility in the country. It's up to the states to do that and work with facilities to address those emissions. And while the Indiana Department of Environmental Management reached out to Cook about its emissions, it didn't contact residents. But Michelle Mabson feels the EPA should take some responsibility for not informing residents, even if it wasn't obligated to do it. She's a staff scientist with the environmental group Earthjustice and previously worked as a fellow in the EPA's Office of Children's Health Protection.
This wasn't a routine business as usual piece of information to be sharing, especially because of the changes to the toxicity information.
The EPA's own watchdog group has criticized the agency. The Office of Inspector General said the EPA failed to notify residents about cancer risks near the 16 highest ethylene oxide emitting plants, much less lower emitting facilities like Cook. Many of the plants that use ethylene oxide are also located in Black, Brown, Indigenous, and lower income communities. Mabson says the EPA should have coordinated better with state agencies to make sure residents knew and understood their health risks.
And that initial proactive approach should not have to be burdened should not be coming from an already burdened community.
Ellettsville residents are likely breathing cleaner air than what they were 7 years ago. Cook has made several voluntary upgrades since 2019 to drastically lower its emissions. But just how little and how much it emitted in the past is less certain. Most industrial plants report their pollution themselves, and there aren't that many state and federal regulators to make sure those numbers are right. Sometimes the EPA even allows companies to change their numbers after the fact. When the National Air Toxics Assessment was released showing the higher cancer risk in Ellettsville, Cook sent a letter to the EPA. It said the plant overreported its emissions for 2014 and 2017, and that those numbers should be about half what it originally said. In July of this year, about a month after we visited the plant, Cook asked the EPA to change its emissions numbers again, this time for 2014, 2017, and every year in between. And the EPA accepted those revisions for all but 1 year. In an email statement, EPA Region 5 officials said the agency usually accepts revisions when facilities attest that they're accurate. All of this makes it hard to tell exactly how much of a risk the plant poses to people living nearby, like David Kirk.
Ocean, millions of years ago, billions, I don't know.
Kirk says it's too late to change what he might have been exposed to. He's more concerned about what the chemical could be doing to his daughter.
My mother passed away from cancer in 2008. So, was it a contributing factor? I don't know. Maybe, maybe not. But I don't want it to be a factor anymore.
Ellettsville Town Council member William Ellis says he feels more at ease knowing Cook's ethylene oxide levels have gone down, and wants the EPA to investigate what damage could have been done to residents. He hopes, now that the emissions are lower, that won't dissuade people from moving here.
All right.
We hopped in the car with Ellis to tour the town's west side, where Ellettsville has built out infrastructure in the hopes of attracting new businesses.
But when we're talking light industrial, especially commercial, you're going to need large tracts of land. And that's what this offers here.
Ellis says one thing's for sure, he's going to ask more questions before another industrial plant moves in.
I want to know from them, what are you emitting? And not just asking the question, what's cancer causing, but what would be a potential carcinogen, because that later on may flip to one, and also we don't want to spew it out in the air.
But if one of those chemicals does become a known carcinogen, it's not clear who would be responsible for notifying people in Ellettsville, which makes it unlikely that residents will know about it. For Indiana News Desk, I'm Rebecca Thiel.